And it was written by Charles Wesley just about 200 or nearly 300 years ago, a long time ago. And so she laughed, and I laughed, and we had this great laugh over the phone about the silliness of youth, and imagine them not knowing that that's a great hymn, etc. And as soon as I put the phone down, I thought of something, and it was this. There's a whole generation outside there, and they don't know that song, and they don't know John Wesley or Charles Wesley who wrote that song, and frankly they don't care, because they've been dead for hundreds of years. And the thing is that John and Charles Wesley lived in exactly the same type of days that you and I live in. Because at that time, the church had lost contact with the vast majority of the population. In England, of course, where they were born and where they grew up, the church, the established church, had a phrase that they coined. And it was the Great Unwashed. Remember that? You've heard that phrase, the Great Unwashed. And that's what they called the ordinary people. They just said because they couldn't contact, they didn't speak the same language. The people didn't understand the language that the church spoke, and they were distant. And John and Charles, they thought, well, this can't be right, because this is a great and a glorious gospel, and it's understandable to the smallest child, right up to the greatest intellectual, and it's the truth. And so they got on their horses, because that was the mode of transport hundreds of years ago, and they rode up and down all of Great Britain and Northern Ireland as well. They took a boat over there, and they preached this gospel to the ordinary people, and they sang songs actually that were ordinary songs that they could understand and go with. And they actually made it to America. Some of you will know that. If you go down to Savannah in Georgia, there's a statue of John Wesley. And it says, John Wesley, preach in this place in 17-something or other. Incredible. These were men hundreds of years ago with a passion for the gospel. And I thought, that's what we should do. That's what we should be doing. And if John was here, he'd be telling us to wise up and get out there and speak to a generation that doesn't know the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So this is a song called John Wesley. And the story I'm about to sing is not true. I made it up. And you may be disappointed at that point, but I say that because during one of the events a couple of years ago, a young lady came up to me and said, where did that happen? That's absolutely miraculous. And she was deeply disappointed when I said, no, it's made up. The bit about the guy thinking that I wrote John Wesley's hymn, that's true. But this little song is not quite true, but it has a very true message. Now there's a sing-along part, but it's not actually a sing-along part. It's a shout-along part. And you'll get it, I'm sure you will. You all look very bright and intelligent, so... Michael W. Smith writes a very nice song. So does Steve Curtis Chap. He moves it along, and that nice Paul Baloche with his neat, well-trimmed beard. But my favorite of all is John Wesley. Well, the organist played and the choir sweetly sang. It's all about freedom and losing your chains. So I strode to the front when the service had ended, saying, who wrote that song? Why, John Wesley. So I asked Reverend Bob if it would be alright for John to lead worship on some Sunday night. And surprisingly he agreed that it might. He said, go ahead son, put John Wesley. So John Wesley is coming to my church on the third Sunday night in July. The Reverend Bob gave me a telephone number. I rang and spoke to some guy, and he said, sure John would love to, I'll tell him, though his attitude did not impress me. Still a promise is a promise, so I'll put up a sign saying, coming next Sunday.
John
Well, the day finally came, apprehension was high. No one noticed the horse